For centuries, this red highlighted island has been known as Great Britain, the United Kingdom, or simply the UK. Today, it's confined to just 94,000 square miles, but barely a century ago, it ruled over a quarter of the entire planet. From North America to Africa, the Middle East to South and East Asia, and all the way to Australia, its empire stretched so far that the sun never truly set on it. Few powers in human history have ever reached that scale. A dominion where sunrise and sunset both belonged to the same crown. But that once mighty empire has slowly crumbled. Piece by piece, century by century, it's been reduced to a nation now facing one of the worst economic crises in its modern history. According to 2024 data, the UK's public debt has climbed to 99.6% of its GDP. To put that in perspective, neighboring Ireland's debt stands at just 43%, and Germany's at 64%. Gang violence and homelessness are now at their highest levels in 3 decades. In the last 10 years alone, homelessness in the UK has surged by more than 50%. Those high salaries and wages that once drew workers from across the world to London, they've been stuck at 2008 levels for 16 years, while inflation has soared to its highest point in 40. Thousands of skilled workers are leaving the country in search of better pay abroad. In what was once the world's 6th largest economy, nearly 10 million people now live in absolute poverty. The NHS, once hailed as a model of healthcare for the entire world, is collapsing under its own weight. More than 8 million patients, many in critical condition, are trapped on hospital waiting lists. And it's not just healthcare. Every major public sector is in crisis, from law and order to transport. The result, the UK has become the worst performing nation in the developed world. The question is, how did the most powerful nation in human history end up here? A country that once ruled the world. What went so wrong that it's now trapped in one of the deepest crises of its time? To understand that, we need to go back to 2016, the year Britain decided it no longer wanted to be part of the European Union. On June 23, 2016, a national referendum was held, and half of British voters chose to leave the EU. That single moment marked a turning point, the beginning of the UK's economic decline. But before we go further, it's important to understand why the European Union was created in the first place. When World War II ended, Europe was exhausted, its cities destroyed, its economies shattered. The continent's leaders realized that if they kept fighting among themselves, their money and resources would forever be wasted on building armies and defending borders. Look at a map of Europe. It's a cluster of small, tightly connected nations. The leaders understood that as long as each country acted alone, there could never be lasting peace, and progress would remain impossible. That's why, in 1952, 6 nations, Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands, came together to form the European Coal and Steel Community. The goal was simple: rebuild their economies through cooperation. The results came almost immediately. After World War II, France needed coal and steel to rebuild its infrastructure. Germany, rich in both resources, sold them to France at remarkably low prices. The outcome benefited both sides. France got cheap raw materials, and Germany gained a reliable buyer for its resources. And because the two countries were geographically close, transportation costs were almost negligible. In the same way, countries like Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg gained direct access to the massive consumer markets of France and Germany. In short, these 6 nations began trading freely, without taxes, tariffs, or political disputes. And their economies took off at remarkable speed. The success of this experiment didn't go unnoticed. One by one, other European nations joined the community. By 1993, 12 countries had become members, and the European Union had emerged as one of the most powerful organizations in the world, a collective of modern superpowers bound by shared prosperity. The EU's biggest advantage was freedom, the freedom of movement, of trade, and of opportunity. Any citizen living in Europe could move to another member country to work, start a business, or buy a home, without restrictions. Goods too could flow freely across borders, with no extra taxes or fees. For example, a furniture manufacturer in Greece could easily sell his products in the UK without paying additional tariffs. And whenever Europe negotiated trade deals with countries outside the continent, it didn't do so individually. It negotiated as a united bloc. Naturally, that gave every member state far greater bargaining power on the global stage. But that raises a question. If being part of the European Union came with so many benefits, why did the UK choose to leave?